Shirts and skins, let's get it, yo. Shirts and skins and we back again. The best coverage in college sports, we come to win. With Brandon, Mark, and Matt, no one go hard as that. Share it with your folks and they'll learn where it all be at. It's just three of the guys, childhood friends that be setting the vibe with a few hot takes, jokes, and predictions. Love the Boise State, we now welcome you to listen. Shirts and skins, let's go.
Bronco Nation, what is up? Thanks for joining us today on the Shirts and Skins podcast. I am Matt Lamb, joined by Brandon Miner and Mark Moss. Very excited. We've got an awesome show for you today. We've got a special guest in studio. This guest is a four-time winner of the NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year Award.
Wow.
He was a voter in the Associated Press Top 25 Men's College Basketball poll from 2014 to 2021. Woo. He covered Boise State athletics for the Idaho Press from 2013 to 2021 before leaving to create Bronco Nation News. Today's guest is BJ Rains. BJ, thanks for joining us.
Nice.
I need to talk afterwards. Whoever made your intro there to maybe make our new intro or something.
Yeah.
That sounded pretty good.
Fiverr.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Fiverr. I could hook you up.
Yeah.
BJ, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here. I'm following some big shoes with Johnny Ballgame and Dave Southern and stuff, but I'm excited to finally be in the chair. You got a great setup, great studio here.
You
missed
something on the intro. It was the private jet tracker. Aviation, like during like coaching searches.
Oh, that's
BJ
the best
Rains
part.
would be
That's the best part about it.
Private jet, left Boise. He's like tracking all the private jets.
Well, it's funny because I know whose jet it is. I've ridden in the jet, and I can't say that sometimes. So they were wondering, like, it was so funny during all that when they're trying to find the new coach because he was like, they're like flying to Denver and say, oh, that's the plane the video is on. That's him, whatever. And then they're like, oh, last week it was in Naples, Florida. So what guys are down there in Naples? Maybe it's Byron Leftwich. And I'm like, guys, this like, and I know like he was on a family vacation to see his dad, who owns this plane. So I can't say that. I'm like, yeah, like the plane's also for like personal use here, guys. Like it's not just all, and they're trying to track this. So then they went to like Montana. I guess the interview was it who was the Montana State or one of the one? No, I don't think it was the other guy. It was the next guy.
Montana State coach.
So they went there, I think, and then the plane left for like an hour to go to like Pinedale, Wyoming, and they're all like, Who's in Pinedale, Wyoming? And again, can't say too much, but there's business in Pinedale, Wyoming. I went and Googled it and looked, and I was like, sure enough, yep, he's got business there. So I was like, okay. So no, he dropped him off to do the interview, went and did some work and checked on his store and came back, and they're all like, oh, is it a secret meeting? Did they pick him up to go there for the interview? And what is all this? And it's just like, sometimes you're tracking the right jet, sometimes you're not, but I actually went to the airport for Chris Peterson. Remember when he left in 2013? Yeah. I think Boise State basketball was playing Carroll College or some NAIA thing. And I'm sitting there and Boise State's up by 30. It was my first year. I'd only been in Boise like 5 months, so I didn't know what I was doing. But someone like Travis Hawks or somebody tweeted, oh, there's a private plane from Seattle coming down. They're going to meet with Chris Peterson. My boss is like, sorry, Carroll College, like get to the airport. So I went to the airport. I was on the wrong side of the airport. I went in on the Jackson Jet Center side, and the lady's like, oh, somebody else came too. You probably need to go around. So went around. I remember it was like 10 degrees, and I pull up, and I see Brian Murphy. And I was like kind of pissed, but kind of happy because like, all right, at least I didn't know what I was doing, so at least somebody else was there too. And it was like 10 degrees. My phone was about to die, like 3%. We see the limo driver. I know you guys don't care about this stuff.
No, it's good.
We're like 2 minutes in. I'm telling random stories. But anyway, the limo driver. We're waiting. We're talking. All of a sudden, like a nice like limo pulls up or stretch. I think it was a limo, or stretch SUV something. And we're like, they pull into the little thing, and we see the plane. So we're like looking through the fence. He goes, "Is Chris Peterson getting off? Is he getting on? Is he getting on?" And it was a guy, and then it was a girl. So it ended up being Jen
Cohen.
Who now went on to be the AD, but she was the associate AD then. Right. And then they, So anyway, they get on. We didn't see Chris Peterson, but the plane, the guy in the limo's coming back outside the thing because we're outside the fence, and we're like, we're trying. Hey man, was Chris Peterson on there? What was that? He rolls down the window and he just goes, meet me around the corner. So we go around the corner, and we go around the corner.
Wait, who said that?
The limo driver.
Oh, okay.
Like he didn't want to like in front of them, like be telling us info. So, and I hope the guy doesn't get fired if he's listening. He goes around.
He's listening. I'm sure he's listening.
We go around the corner, and then he like gave us his card, and he's like, just call me. He was really nervous about being seen with us or whatever. Me and Brian Murphy get in like one of our cars and put on speakerphone, and we call the guy, and he's like, you can't say anything that'll ever like know that came from inside the limo, but he's like, they're all celebrating. They're saying, we got our guy, whoever that, But he's like, well, then we're all like, okay, we got our guy. Like, does that mean that that they got Peterson, or did he say no so they know who the next person is? Yeah. Like what but they were like celebrating the whole way back from like I guess going, and he's telling all this stuff, and then like at 6 a.m. the next morning it came out that he had accepted it and it was done. And the limo driver, I remember the limo plate. I remember the plate of the limo, but I can't say what it was. But
I had heard the limo.
Yeah.
I had not heard that.
Was that
part
the
of it.
Rod
Yeah.
Stewart guy? Was it? There was like the Rod Stewart brother that had a big limo in Boise for a long time. Do you remember that? No.
No, but yeah, I remember he was super
Different
nervous
guy.
because he knew he had this scoop, but he like wanted to tell us, but he didn't want to like if there's a conversation in the limo, it'd be obvious that it came from the limo driver, so he had to like be careful what he said. But we kind of pieced it together, and then sure enough, the next morning, Joe Shad, who I don't know what he does these days, was the first one to tweet out that Peterson was leaving or whatever. And
That always is annoying. I think I had mentioned that like, is that how that works? The coaches, agents tip off the national guys?
Most of the time, I mean,
you know that Bruce Feldman doesn't have sources here.
I mean, I was lucky enough to break when Avalos got hired. I was luckily I worked really hard on that and was lucky to have that be local. But usually there's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So the agent for, I don't know, like, Spencer Danielson now will, and I'm not saying this happens, but like Spencer Danielson, is getting hired at Boise State. So they'll tell, all the Pete Thamels and all that. Yeah. And then in 2 years, the agent will, Pete Thamel will float out, oh, Spencer Danielson, a candidate at Clemson or whatever, and like just to like get him a new deal here. And like they can throw their name out there, and there's ways to like help each other out. So that's why people get mad, like, all around the country, the national guys break these stories when it should be the local guys. Yeah. And I've like even talked to coaches about this. Like I've talked to Leon about this. Like, come on, we're covering you guys every day. Like, why do we need Andy Katz tweeting out that you're not going to Washington State? You're staying here like 5 years ago. Like there should help out the local folks, but sometimes that's not how it works. And it's way bigger for them to get their message out to the national people through John Rothstein and everybody else than the local guys. But it is what it is.
Makes sense.
Do you like tracking them around when there's a coach change? Do you like doing that?
Oh, that's horrible. No, that's horrible. No. Well, it depends, because if you don't like the previous coach, then you're happy there's going to be a new coach. So sometimes it's a positive, but the actual like trying to the hardest one was when they hired Avalos, when like Kellen Moore was in the mix a little bit, and I had heard stuff on that, and then there was other people, and then that was the people were wondering what's going on, and that was a tough one when they went with, because they could have gone in a lot of directions when they hired Andy. But this past one went pretty quick, and I think everybody thought that there's a good chance Spencer could get it. So, but I mean, it is what it is. You get the private plane part's funny, and like I said, half the time there's stories where people go to the airport because they think it's the guy, and then it's like some family coming back from vacation. the plane, what are you all doing here? It's like there's sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not, and they file fake reports, on the plane reports to like mess with the fans and stuff or whatever. But it is what it is. But it's one of the many joys of being a media member, I guess.
Well, BJ, we're going to talk some Boise State athletics a little bit later on, but first we want to talk about you and your journey. You're not originally from Boise. What brought you here? We know you started Bronco Nation News, 2 years ago? About 2 years ago.
Yeah. Wow, 2 years.
Tell us about that journey.
Sorry to waste 10 minutes already on random crap.
You're good.
So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I actually moved decent amount when I was little. My dad also is in the sports media business, sports writing.
Still doing it, right?
He's like semi-retired now. His big thing is books. He's written like almost 40 books. Wow. So that's my goal at some point, to write a book. He covered the Cardinals back in the 80s, 90s. He worked for USA Today actually for a number of years, and then did his own thing. So I stupidly got into the family business and tried to keep it going. But I mostly grew up in St. Louis, went to college at Kansas, did some internships and worked in St. Louis for a couple of years. And then just kind of wanted to branch out and do my own thing. And I actually applied for a job covering the Oakland A's for a newspaper in Oakland and surrounding areas. And I was one of the 3 finalists. I didn't get it because they said I had been working for a website. I was working for, now it's Bally Sports. It used to be like Fox Sports, whatever, Midwest. And so they said, oh, you need a little more experience just being a beat writer, working for a newspaper, not doing stuff online. So they said, just go apply for any job you can, and in a year or two, you can get whatever job you want. And I went and there was Boise, Idaho at the Idaho Press Tribune in Nampa, or there was something covering Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And I was at spring training 2013 down in Florida, and it was right place, right time because Dave Southern had left to go to the Statesman, and they were like desperate because it was the middle of spring ball and they needed somebody. And at that time, all that the Idaho Press Tribune really like tried to compete with the Statesman with was BSU football. And then it was just right place, right time. I put my resume in, sent it, and then like within 24 hours, I got a call. They were wanting to do a Skype. Back 10 years ago, since like forever ago, it was Skype, not Zoom or anything else. We did the Skype interview and then got the job and drove. They said, you got to be here by March 31st if you want the extra week vacation or whatever, or the 90 days before July, whatever, to get the insurance, or I don't know what it was. So I had to drive all the way back to St. Louis, pack my stuff, and then drove all the way. I basically drove from Florida to Idaho in like a week span. That was fun.
You were married at the time, right?
I was engaged.
Oh, okay.
We were going to be married in November that year. And then we ended up changing it 1 week once we found out the bye week and moved it because we hadn't planned it. We hadn't really
have to plan your wedding or
Well, we did it in November because I covered baseball, so we thought it was perfect. It was off season, nothing would be happening. It was in St. Louis, and then luckily we like hadn't really sent out. It was still pretty early when they put the original schedule out, in March or whatever, and we were able to change the venue like 1 week to do it during the bye week. Did the Idaho Press Tribune 9 years. Loved it. It was great. Still think back to that first year when Chad Kripe was the beat writer for the Statesman and was just kicking my ass on every story. I don't think I broke a story the whole first year. It was rough, man.
Chad was good.
He was really good.
Yeah,
He'd been
Chad
there for
was great.
13, 14 years. And I mean, and now I see it. I mean, you just over time, you just develop sources and the coaches and people that trust you and stuff. And it's just going back thinking like, how did I ever – Leon talks about how to when his first year in the Mountain West, like how are we ever going to win a game? And I remember thinking like, how am I ever going to? And then probably the best thing that I hate to say it, but one of the best things that happened was like when Peterson left and Harsin came in, and there was a lot of new blood on the coaching staff and some like Eli Drinkwitz and Sanford and some younger guys that like were new that like didn't really know any of the media members. So I had like a clean slate and kind of a fresh start, and that kind of helped out trying to develop sources and stuff like that. So did that for 9 years. Then long story short. Just kind of was ready for something new and also kind of saw the direction that newspapers were going and still, liked the Idaho Press, still read it, still had no issues there. I just kind of wanted to do my own thing and was, just kind of looking to see what else was out there. My wife was the one that kind of pushed me over the edge to go for it. But ended up buying, there was already a blog called Bronco Nation News. And ironically enough, again, this is the part where we may have to edit stuff, but they were like, essentially plagiarizing or like stealing copyrighted content from us. Like they didn't know what they were doing. So they're like taking Statesman stuff, taking KTVB stuff, taking our stuff and like putting it on their site without like, any like, so they were essentially like just stealing our stuff. And then when we talked to them about it, they like understood and took it down, but they didn't understand, like they don't know like journalism or like copyright stuff. And so we end up like trying to, we were like not happy with them. Then we actually tried to buy them out one time. It didn't work. And then that's when we started the Idaho Press we like talked to them. We're actually back when they had ESPN Boise. We had some stuff together with them, and then that's actually what led to the paper creating Blue Turf Sports, which was like our website back then and kind of a niche publication because we were like, we don't really need them. Let's just start our own. And then long story short, over time, when I started thinking about this, I was like, I can't just like completely start from scratch. No advertiser is going to give me money if I walk up and say, yeah, I got a Facebook page with 3 people and I got a Twitter account I just started. We got 6 on there. And so I was like, I had to have some sort of like base when I started and talked to the gentleman that was running it, and it was perfect timing. He had just had a kid and he was kind of ready to back off, and I ended up buying the channels from him. So I bought like, almost, 85,000 like with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that. And then we've built it up, and new website, new branding, new logo, all that stuff. And then we kind of have added Johnny and Prater and Tust, and we're still building, and had a full-time employee for like a month, and then Jordan K left, and then so we'll see what's in the future. But it's been great to do my own thing and be my own boss, and just be able to. I don't get to write nearly as much, which I want to. I'm really hoping this year to get back to, but it's just there's so much other stuff involved with the shows and the pre and post game shows and the daily shows, and then the business side of it. It takes a lot of time too. So I'm hoping to continue to build it. I got some huge 3, 5, 10-year goals for it. I think we're only scratching the surface in terms of what this digital medium can do. But it's been fun so far. I mean, I came in right when the basketball team, went on their run, and so that really helped. And then, they've made the tournament. I started in December of 21, I guess it was. So there's been all 3 years. Like like the 3 marches I've had, Boise State basketball made the tournament all 3 years. So that really helped. And then all the
coincidence, I think not.
hey, I don't know. And then the football drama with the coaching stuff last year with Avalos and all that. I mean, that always helps with viewership and page views and stuff. So we're going in the right direction. I mean, we're not like where I want to be yet, but in terms of like what my plan originally was, like we're hitting goals that I had for like 5 years in like 2.5. So we're moving in the right direction. It's been a lot of fun.
How scared were you making that leap? Was it scary? Was it exciting? Was it both?
I remember like literally the morning we started, like I talked to people. I give like Travis Hawks, like he was one of the main confidants that I have like on the business side, and he's great for advice and stuff. And I remember he was like, oh man, this will be great. It's gonna be awesome. Other people were too and stuff. And but you never know. And I remember like that first morning, 9 a.m. was when I was going to like launch it and say subscriptions are on sale now. And I remember like, I was like literally like wondering like, is a single person going to sign up? What's this going to be like? And then literally like the little like buzzer on my phone when somebody would sign up, just like within 2 minutes went off and then went off again, then went off again. I was just like in the first 3 days we had like 300.
That's
and I remember
awesome.
thinking like, all right, this is at least gonna or it was some number like that where it was like I think almost 200 in the first day or something, where it was kind of like, all right. And that, but I remember there was like a 5-minute period when I, hit go and then like tweeted it out. And I was just like wondering like, okay, is this going to be a failure or what? And is it going to work? And, but I talked to the Mountain West. I had numerous conversations with Boise State. Like I want to make sure like this is not going to become some fan blog. I still want, I actually hate the name Bronco Nation News. I don't like it. I think it's too fantasy, but is that a word? I don't know. But now.
You're a writer.
I actually liked Blue Turf Sports better, but I already stole it. So I couldn't take the name for that one, but I couldn't think of one. And then I just couldn't like think of one where, and we already had the branding and like the awareness, and enough people had kind of heard of Bronco Nation News that I just couldn't think of anything better, and I stuck with it. So I don't love it. But
it's fine. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
And you can just, BNN, like the more you hit BNN,
and I am starting to like brand that a little
Yeah.
more as BNN than with some of the stuff than Bronco Nation News. And yes, I don't know. It's okay, but it's not like I kind of just stuck with it because it was already there. It wasn't like my favorite. You'd be amazed how many schools though, like I'll get to the arena and they'll hand me my press packs and it says Bronco News Nation or like whatever. I'm like, it's not that hard to figure. Like it's wrong. I'd say almost half the time they like type it wrong on the thing.
It's one of the hardest parts of starting a business, right? The name.
Yeah. It is what it is. But yeah, I remember that we kept it and it's taken off and it's it's been.
We were probably.
Can I talk about that time? When you started?
Yeah.
Because that was such a perfect time to go independent because the Statesman, who is the behemoth in the valley for decades.
I know you guys. I'm just gonna say here. I know you guys love. Love to discuss other media outlets and things. So I'm staying out of most of that.
Yeah.
We're not gonna.
Totally fine. But I'm just my point is, as we're all local to this, and so we've been able to see, and you would watch me
go Bulldogs, right?
hey,
Dude, love those
you
Bulldogs.
said you'd stay out of it.
Yeah. He said it.
He's
not us.
I just think
Don't clip that part off of one of those shorts. Right?
I love independent media. I love independent media and what you've done and the timing that you've done it because this, if it weren't for you, I don't know what BSU would do. Honestly, I mean,
appreciate that
because really, like the Statesman's kind of controlled elsewhere, and they're struggling. They're trying to find their way, and then, the Press Tribune, they just can't really garnish enough income to really pay somebody great. And you were an up and coming guy. You were really doing an incredible job. I actually subscribed to the Press Tribune because essentially you were the only interesting voice out there, and so what you've done and like. You've almost monopolized the press coverage or
which I'm not trying to do. I'm not trying to take anybody out of business. I'm not trying to, but like you said, I mean, and I'll say
the
this,
timing was amazing.
Yeah. And like, I like the actual like people at like the Statesman. I have no problem with anybody there. It's all corporate, like whatever that like, make decisions that like, they don't realize what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like nothing against the Idaho Statesman, but like their deadline's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So they just can't, and they're printed out of Twin Falls. So they can't get like, they're really focusing online, but their actual printed paper, like a lot of the news is a day or two old. So it's like, and that's not, again, nobody locally's fault. That's just the way it is. Somebody, corporate guy in Sacramento or somewhere decided on this. And what that means is, they're just, they're behind on a lot of that kind of stuff. And so that was one of the ways that, this digital platform where it's all instant. I mean, like if some huge story happened right now, like literally I could go to my platform on my phone and be live on YouTube in 2 minutes. Like, I mean, if I needed to be. And so there's just the way that the system works, you can just really change it. And getting guys like Johnny, getting guys like Prater and Tust, and that part's been a lot of fun. But for me, I think that I see the most benefit is, actually going to the games. And again, that's not on any individual because they're not deciding if they're wanting to go or if their company's sending them or whatever. But I mean, I missed one home or road, and we're talking they played in Orlando and Clemson and wherever else. I missed one game last year, and the one game I missed was because it was the St. Mary's game because they were in the football championship.
Yeah, that's right.
Literally at noon the next day, and there was no way I couldn't. Somehow Travis Hawks found like a 6 a.m. Allegiant flight or something, but I couldn't. I didn't want to risk that, or I didn't see it at the time or something. But I literally missed one basketball game all year, and so I think that's where you see it too, where it's like you're actually at these games, you're talking to these players, you're talking to these coaches, you're not watching it on nothing against some of the other media members, but it's just hard when you're watching it on TV to get the same perspective that you're there if you're there. So that was one thing when I started this. I said, I'm going to, and I told my wife, like, yeah, it sucks, whatever, but like to invest in this and to get the coverage we need, like if I'm going to do a post-game show, I need to do a post-game show saying, I just talked to Spencer Danielson and I just talked to these players and I was, there. Like so I made the decision that we're going to, whatever it costs, I'll be at every game, home or road. And that month and a half where there's overlap, like it's pretty hard. And I choose a couple of these tournaments. I've chosen basketball over football because you get 3 games instead of 1. And I think I missed a game at Laramie. I'm not going to worry too much about missing a football game in November in Laramie where it snowed. I was like sitting on a beach bar at the Myrtle Beach Invitational going, I think I made the right call on this one. But that was a big thing too. Like the other outlets just don't invest the money to travel.
Well, it's tough.
And so that was one area where I thought, okay, I could really get a leg up here.
Can we get a push for high school sports coverage?
You've talked to me a little bit about this. He wants a BNN for high schools.
Yes, I think there's a market for it. I think Treasure Valley especially. What are your thoughts on that? Have you ever considered it?
I mean, there's been like smaller public, like smaller, like there was like SB Live or something. There's been a couple smaller ones that have tried it. It's just so hard because I would notice it at the paper too, but like you would just, you spend 3 hours covering a game, writing about a high school football game, but like in reality, the only people that really care about that game are the parents of the two teams. So, yes, you have those 100 parents at Bora and those 100 parents at Skyview that love that game, and they're going to tell their grandma and grandpa. But like, I don't know if my kid goes to Mountain View or whatever else. Like, I'm not sure I really care about that game. Or if I don't have kids, like I ain't reading. So I just feel like it's much harder to devote manpower to something like that unless you're really sure that you have enough people all. Could it work? Yes. Like St. Louis has like stlhighschoolsports.com or whatever, but it's part of the paper. But yeah, they have multiple writers, and you can go there for stats and standings and all that stuff. Could it work? Yes. I just think you have to put a lot of time and energy into it. Where I don't know what the readership and page views would be.
Maybe
overall,
some up and coming high school journalist,
especially when you got like how many games going on any given Friday, Saturday night. I mean, you talk about travel.
And early on, when I was early on at the paper, like I mean, when I was first started, man, and you're making, I mean, people would laugh. They knew what my first salary was. I mean, and you're having to be there on the desk shift on a Friday night before you cover the beat. That was another thing. Like nothing against that, but I was just. Nothing against high school sports, but I just really had kids and stuff. I don't want to be spending my Friday night before a BSU football game going to cover the Middleton football game or whatever. So I just, that was nothing against Middleton. Sorry.
It's just like throwing people under the bus over here.
Yeah, sorry. Edit that part out.
No, we like Middleton.
But like, yeah, I just like, so, but I mean, I was sitting in the office and you get these calls and like you could just write up a little paragraph like about the game or whatever, but it was like there's 20 games going on in the Treasure Valley, and it's just like we'd put our center, we devote a writer and a photographer and all this stuff for like one huge game, and then it was like, all right, well, 2 sets of parents are going to read that. So I don't know. Maybe
it's interesting.
Maybe
let it go, Brandon.
I don't know.
I'll never let it go. I think there's storylines throughout the seasons, like Liam Campbell and Waihe.
That's the market.
Yeah, there's
the
like
kids that are going to be going to.
There's storylines,
and I would say the feature type stories more than like the straight game coverage.
Yeah,
I would say there certainly could be a market for that. There's great stories out there.
Because I don't follow all these, but I am interested in kids. Whether it's girls soccer, basketball, football, kids that are really good and are going to be going like D1s or whatever, I will read about those. And I think there's a lot of people that would.
Yeah.
But you'd read a feature story about how this kid became great more than like
yes,
this
more
team
than
beating this team on a random Tuesday night in
I agree.
volleyball or whatever.
If
100%.
yes, 100% that. And I'm thinking football and basketball, boys football and basketball, and like undefeated teams. Like, hey, they're doing a really good job here. Whatever. Anyway, we can move on. I just think
I wouldn't give up on it. I wouldn't give up
Plugging
on it yet, but I think it's not quite as easy as you think it is. But stay with it.
I will. I will. And I know we need to move on to other stuff, but man, your hire of Jordan K was awesome, man. I love that guy. And we want somebody back like that because
he asked the tough questions.
He did. And BJ, you have a tough line because you have to manage relationships. But if you have some rogue guy that's just going in, throwing haymakers at the coaches, dude, that was awesome.
Yeah,
man.
that was And I will say, like, I talked to him about it. Like, sometimes I even thought he like went like a little too far on some of them, like where it was like he was trying to like.
Yeah,
but him and
poke
Andy,
the bear.
and him and Andy had this thing where it was like, but it got to a point at the end where no matter like what he said, they could be like, "Hey, how's your day going?" No comment.
Andy hated that guy.
Whatever he said, he was not going to give him an answer. Like,
but Jordan was saying, I'm sorry, from a fan's perspective, it was the only guy that was like, "Hey, you're saying this and you're not doing it," and Andy's like, "Shut up."
Oh, there was a couple times. There was a couple times as he was asking the questions, where I was like looking for the exit door because I was like, "This is not going to be good here, man." I was like, this. But he was not afraid to, he was not afraid to. And I remember at media, I told him when I hired him, I said, "Hey, man, like." I know you guys aren't. I said you don't have to change anything. Like I'm not. Like we're not. I really
freedom of speech.
I said I don't want to be like just some site that like carries their water. Like we're not some. Like I want to present both sides. Yeah. I said I'm not asking you to like only stop doing that. But I did say like we need to get you to have a little better relationship with Andy because we can't have this where we go into the season where literally no matter what. We're just going to be this, no matter what. You can't have the head coach like literally just dislike, someone that's going to be at every game and practice, whatever. So I told him at media days, I said, you need to go talk to him at media days. Let's get off on the right foot for the season here. And he did at media days. He went and cornered him. I actually have a picture of him talking to him. They actually had like a really nice chat, and he thought he was making some progress. We thought we were. And then like first game, some injury question or something, and it didn't work. But
you need like good cop, bad cop guys. Anyway,
I will say this though, it's not as easy as fans think. Like the fans want you to ask. Like I guarantee you, first of all, like 95% of the questions fans want to ask, if they were there in the room, there's no way they'd actually ask. Like it's much easier on Twitter or whatever to be like, oh, how did nobody ask about this or whatever? Like because he said. Here's another misnomer. We do not lose our credentials if we upset the coach with a tough question. That's everyone's like, oh, they want to keep their access, so they're just throwing softballs at him, so they don't pull their press pass. We know how he plays the game. Like, no, that doesn't happen. They do not. If you ask a legitimate question, they're not going to pull your press pass. They might not like it or whatever, but they can't do that. Like that's the misnomer. But are there certain times where it's better to on a live press conference on a live TV to like put the coach on the spot with something just to make the fans pat you on the back? Like sometimes there's a right place and time for that. And I would say there's a lot of times where we talk away from the live TV camera or whatever, like that fans don't see or whatever. And so I don't know, that part bugs me a little bit when fans get on media for not asking tougher questions. Cause like when you're in the press room and it's live on TV and there's media in there and it's like, it's not, I don't know. It could we occasionally ask a different question? Yes. But when we talked to Andy Avalos, like before the season, we had a little sit down thing and he's like, I'm not talking about injuries because you can ask as many times as you want. I'm not going to answer the question. Yeah. So it got to a point where it was like, why? Like,
I'm not going to ask questions.
Like, I mean, people go, how can no one at least ask when the guy goes on the third? He told us he wasn't going to answer it. There's really no point to ask it anymore.
BJ, I don't know anybody that would criticize like on Twitter somebody not.
What
where's
are you
the camera
about?
Sorry.
Mark
has it.
I've tamed significantly over time.
At the start,
tamed?
You have tamed.
On Twitter.
BJ, your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
BJ's like,
I
got
BJ. Numerous things spinning in my head.
BJ's like,
I just love the paragraph text I get from Mark and
explaining a tweet.
Well, I just wonder.
Twitter's hard. It's hard to
tell us how you feel about it.
It's hard to take back something you just tweeted.
Absolutely.
It's hard to not.
I don't think Mark's as bad as some of the fans, but I do think there's times where you don't necessarily see the bigger picture of some of the stuff. But
probably
true.
But
that's like I said, it's a lot tough. Again, there's just time and place, and sometimes I think fans are like just don't really understand, like, you know, that there's, you know. But sometimes I'll flat out like say like, hey, Leon, I'm not doing my job if I don't ask you about this. Like this guy got arrested or this happened or whatever. Like, and so I mean, it's not like we're like only wanting to ask positive questions, but it doesn't really do any good sometimes to walk in there and just ask some, you know, people are like, if the first question's not how does Tim Plow still have a job, then I'm done with this. And it's like, really, you're gonna walk? I mean, like we all know, like you're gonna walk in there after thinking, how does Tim Plow still have a job? Like, really, like I mean, so there's
job, BJ.
Yeah, there's stuff like that where it's like it really won't do any good. Now you could phrase a question like, at what point do you have, you know? And I thought Jordan did a really good job of trying to thread the needle. And he didn't care though. Like he just did not care if there was a way if he asked. So there'd be times where we'd be like, all right, who's gonna take the sword on this one? It's like, it was usually like, Jordan might as well be you.
He got the "we're gonna run to win" reply, right? Wasn't that Jordan?
Yeah, I think so. I remember yeah, it might have been.
We're gonna run to
So good. Dude.
The Memphis. I know the Memphis game. The Memphis game was a tough one because they had he was gonna go for it. Then they decided not to and got the pump block. The field goal blocked and returned.
So bad.
And then that was also there was something else that had happened there. And we were all
that wasn't the Hail Mary.
In your opinion, why? So I don't remember that exact scenario, but I think he got asked about it, and why do coaches just? Is it so horrible just to be like that was a mistake? You know what I mean? Or well, I should have done that. Like they never do.
Nope, they.
I mean,
that would have been nice. And you know what? I think, and what could people say? If he would have said, you know what, actually, I probably should have just gone for it there. I second-guessed myself. It didn't work out. We should have gone. I think everyone would have been like, okay. You may not like it, but it's like, okay.
Yeah.
At least he said it. Like, yeah, that doesn't, they have too egotistic or whatever to ever admit that they were wrong and that they should have done it. And sometimes they have great responses, and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that side of it. Sometimes they just stare you down and act like they're not wrong, and it is what it is. But I remember that Memphis one because we were all kind of looking at each other like, who's going to take it on this one? And
that's why I love Jordan, dude.
And so I think I ended up asking like 2 or 3 questions, and then he got kind of mad about the second when we followed up again about the like the decision, like because he had started to run the play and then something happened. And like the third time we tried to rephrase the question, I remember he got kind of short. And then that was also when I think did Madsen come in and play really well in the 2 minutes? So there was some QB stuff there, and is there a controversy and all that stuff? And we may never know what happened with all that stuff.
We've asked several guests this, and not to rehash the whole season, but was last season kind of the oddest football season you've ever covered?
Yes, it was without a doubt, and I still wish we could ever find out like what was actually like happening.
You could write a book about that.
Oh, dude, that's your first book. That's your
book. The 2023 Boise State football season.
Yeah, that's your book, dude.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they ever talk. I mean, but I've never seen the way. I mean, and I've said that, like I'm not saying Talon Green is like a Heisman Trophy winning candidate quarterback, but I thought they treated him.
I'm with you on this.
And I'm not even like, and it always comes out of like a negative towards Maddox Madsen. Like I have no problem. Maddox Madsen's could be a great quarterback here. It's nothing against him. I just thought the way they handled it with Green, I just thought was unbelievably embarrassing, to be honest. I mean, there was literally a game where they said, nope, Talon's our starter. And then he played one play and then they took him out.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, and then you asked Bush Hampton about it, and he's like, well, we thought that zone read was really going to be a first good opening play or whatever.
Get out. He did.
It's like, yeah, he did. Yeah. It's like, well, Maddox Madsen can't run a zone read first play. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous. It was really bad. And so I just, it always comes off as like, oh, I'm cheering for Talon Green to do better or whatever. And I don't like Madsen. I do hope Talon Green goes to Arkansas and kills it, because I don't know what, I have no idea what was going on there. It made no sense to me, the whole thing. And I still don't know if it was Avalos. But I've heard so many stories about the Tim Plow era, and people like want to rip. I think you mostly want to rip on Plow. And
me? No, what? No, I've heard enough now to realize that Avalos had his hands way too far.
Plow certainly deserves a little bit of the blame, but I've heard like a lot of stories from coaches, whether it be on the golf course or just wherever, like over the last couple of years, to find out like it was really bad in terms of the offensive coordinator not having much say in the offense,
which is wild. It's so wild.
You hire a guy because of the offense he runs, and then you get to run it. There was 2 halves they ran it for. The first half against UCF when they were up, I think 24-0 or 21-0 or something against UCF at UCF, and then the
UTEP at home,
the home UTEP game, which you should have beat them bad anyway, but they were up like 42-3 at halftime or something, and only scored 7 points in the second half. But they were apparently scoring too fast.
Yeah.
They were leaving the defense,
so stupid.
leaving the defense on the
That's what
field,
it- that's
leaving
what
the
it
defense
was.
on the
That's
field
right.
leaving the defense on the field too much, risking injury on the defense by having them have to play too much because offense scored too fast.
He almost got to 50 though.
Almost got to have 100.
I'm not saying Tim Plow is the next,
No.
whatever, offensive genius, but I'm very curious now that he's at UC Davis as the head coach to see how that goes when he gets to run an offense.
He got the bad side of the narrative. I think Plow did.
For sure.
You know, and I think Bedell did. And I think a couple of those guys when Hank was anyway, we should probably move on.
Was that UTEP game like? I mean, you guys have been following the program way longer than I have. You think back to that, and then Plow was fired the next morning.
But
was that like literally a low point for this program? I mean, you lose at home or you lose on the road as a 15-point favorite to the UTEP Miners, and they scored 10 points that game or something.
I think that was rock bottom.
Yeah, hopefully.
The back-to-back losses against New Mexico and Air Force, I remember at the time was really bad.
30-point favorites against New Mexico at home.
And Air Force is one thing, but I remember that being really bad and like just having that thought of like, where is this going? But that UTEP game was so ugly, so bad.
It's a different kind of low from the Nevada loss, right?
Yeah, that
Nevada
was
loss.
still
You have
good. It was
you're at least organized. You have all the pieces in place. This was like we don't know what we're doing.
Yes.
And
then Hank transfers and Plow's fight. It was such.
You needed to clean house.
So much turmoil.
But the Nevada game was devastation.
Yeah.
And then the UTEP game was like irrelevance. It was like borderline. Hey, we're almost irrelevant now. Like nobody's gonna follow us anymore. Because anyway.
So the Andy Avalos era. I mean, we've talked about all the streaks that came to an end while he was there.
Oh, I've never gone back in the history book so many times for the wrong. Like I can tell you more about
we
the
had another one.
1997 Boise State team than I ever thought I would know. But
Seriously. And we just had another one, right? Last week. 14 years in a row. We had a draft pick.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just like there's one common thread in a lot of that. That thread's gone. But I don't know. I'm not sitting here to bash on Avalos, but that was a tough era.
But you kind of
But
are.
I kind of am. I mean, it was
Well,
just
he deserves
all of it.
criticism.
We weren't ranked one time in 3 years. That hadn't happened
Not
in
even
20
close.
years.
Not even
Yeah,
close.
No. We didn't, it was just somehow we won. I don't know. He was coach of the year his first year.
the thing for me
That
too
was
is
coach of the year.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it's funny because when I moved here, I was coming right off the. When I moved here, I was coming off the. The Kellen had just left, and the program in 2013. They're still, high, the 2012.
You missed such a great time.
But I remember, what I was expecting or whatever, and I come out. My first game was at Washington in 2013, and they just got crushed.
lost,
yeah.
And I had to delete it, but I remember the first line of my story was, "I moved out here for this shit."
You did.
I cut it out, you had this idea or whatever, and then
Good for you to cut that out. Yeah.
But then they win it in 14. They win the Fiesta Bowl. But I remember there's no drama for the most part. There was ones at 19 or 18 where they were under 7 or 8-0.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of early losses where they're
Yes.
kind of taken out of the national picture early, and then they're having to rebound late. I actually remember. I don't know if you guys remember this. In 2013, they had a deal. I think it was RC Willie, where if they went if you bought your furniture or whatever before the season, we bought a king bed because of this, and then if they would have gone undefeated, you got it for free. They they actually had
Damn it,
they
Peterson! Come on, dude.
well, they had undefeated seasons or whatever. I don't even know if that's legal. I mean, it's like gambling in Idaho. But they said you bought your furniture, and then if your purchase was free, if they went the regular season undefeated, and they lost the first game to Washington, I was like, oh, there went the we got to pay for the bed now. But
Sorry, Karen, don't sleep on that.
I mean,
take it back.
That's one of the biggest thing that I've noticed is it seems like there's no real October, November, December.
Yeah.
You mentioned them not being ranked, but it's they're not they're always they're 2-2, they got to go on a run now, or they're this, and it's they just can't get off to that start. Which again, if they lose to Oregon, they're going to kind of be in the same boat where they won't be a factor until week 7 or whatever again, when people remember about them. But so that's the big thing I've noticed is just they need to get that 1 year where they went. Was it 19? They played Peterson in his last game at Washington,
got throttled.
but they only had one loss. It was
Yeah.
by 3 points to BYU, and that was in week pretty late in the season. But
Yeah.
for the most part, there's not a lot of national drama. I mean, they had been ranked in the AP poll. I don't know how many years in a row at some point, and then the last
In the
3-4 years
teens.
they haven't. And so I don't know. We'll see. I think this has a year to. Maybe this could be different this year. We'll see.
Yeah.
We're going to basketball.
Basketball and then back to football. Sure.
So a bunch of changes happen. And BJ, you follow the basketball team pretty closely, right? So if you look at the changes that have been made, so we've lost 4 guys roughly, right? So Jace left, Roddy left, Buzo left, and then
We lost Kobe Young.
Kobe
Rice.
Young
And Cam Martin. I mean, if you go seniors or transfers, yeah.
So 7?
6 guys. Yeah. 6,
4 transfers, 2 seniors, yeah.
And then we got.
But don't leave out Big Mo Silla.
Yeah, why didn't? That's the bummer. He
Mo
didn't
Silla,
play
7.
Dang it. He was a 7-footer, right?
I don't think they listed him quite. He's 6'11".
Wow, dude. So
Yeah.
a true 7-footer. That's crazy.
First one of the Leon Rice era.
That's wild, dude. When Leon Rice first came, we were all like 6'2". Our team was like 6'4", 6'2" at the most. But anyway, so we pick up 3 guys, right? So we got Cardenas.
Yep.
We got, I don't even know their 2 names. The
NAIA
NAIA
kid and the Arizona
guy.
There we go.
Javen Buchanan and Dylan Anderson.
So net positive or where? Net neutral.
I saw Dylan Anderson. When I was at the softball game on Saturday with my kid, and they brought him there for like an inning. I'm not sure why for his visit. I would assume Arizona has a nicer softball complex than Boise State, but it was
we got some lights.
It was a nice day, and they brought him. It was a nice day, and they brought him and his family there for like an inning, and
it worked.
And yeah, and I remember thinking like, oh, that dude is really tall.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, I'm higher on Cardenas than some are, and this again comes off as a like negative towards Roddy Anderson, but I just don't. Roddy Anderson, I think, is a solid player, but what he does well doesn't necessarily mesh with what Boise State does well. So I think at times it was like trying to fit like a square peg into a round hole, and it just didn't quite fit. I know later in the season he got better. He single-handedly won them in the game at Viejas Arena.
Played great.
But you just still had the 1 or 2 or 3 times a game with like just the boneheaded turnover.
Colorado one.
And that was a really bad one. And he's not, I mean, he got better as the year went on, but he's just not a great shooter. I mean, he barely shot 50% from the free throw line. I mean, in that Colorado game, the Colorado band when he went to the line was shooting 54%. and then he missed the first one, so they start going 53%, 53%. Like, and me and Jay Tuss were sitting there, and I was like, "There's no way that's what are they talking about? It's free? Like, it wasn't. I never really thought it was that." And we went and looked; he was shooting 53.5% from the free throw line.
Maybe if he could have finished at the rim better.
Oh, it was. He could get to the rim almost anytime he wanted.
Yeah.
But as John Mallory always said, he had a $5 million move and a 5-cent finish.
Yeah.
Like he just couldn't finish. It's amazing, and his shooting percentage. And then they'd leave him wide open. And he got as the year went on, he hit a couple big threes. But overall, I just don't think quite what he does really fit what Boise State needed. He's more of a scorer, and they want someone that can score, but also when they're left open and things like that. But they need someone that everyone ripped on Max Rice this year for not having as good of a year. And I talked to a lot of people that said, what was the difference? And they said he didn't have Marcus Shaver Jr. And Marcus Shaver Jr. I think a lot of times was able to create shots for guys like Max by drawing in the defender, and you couldn't leave Marcus Shaver Jr. open because he'd hit an open 3. Like they could help more on other guys, and they could do things with Anderson that I don't think they did.
That, yeah.
And so there's small stuff like that. Like I'm not saying that's the sole reason Max Rice, struggled for a good chunk of the season. I'm just saying that was what somebody told me. Like, hey, Shaver did a lot more at the point guard spot than people realize in terms of, causing. Like, you're not going to be Cardenas is like close to 40% 3-point shooter. Like, you're not going to be able to help off him. Like, I'm not saying he's going to lead the team in 3-point shooting and like shoot like 6 a game, but like you're not going to be able. Like, they would just like flat out say we're not guarding Roddy Anderson. Like San Diego State just let him would just guard somebody else and leave him wide open, and we saw that a lot last year. And at times he made him pay, but I just think that they're going to be able to do a lot of things differently. So I think the Cardenas is a big upgrade. And I think if Anderson had left first and like a week later they got Cardenas, I think would have been seen as a bigger trade. The fact that they got him when he was still on the roster and then Anderson just left because he knew he saw the writing on the wall. And also I think they were okay with him leaving because Cardenas was going to start and he was a 2. He wasn't. Your 2 guard can't shoot 20% or whatever it was. And so, I mean, the day after the season, all you need to know is the day after the season, like Cardenas said that Mike Burns flew to California, like they lost to Colorado, flew all the way back,
wild.
And he got on another plane and flew and had lunch with Cardenas because like they knew they had to upgrade the point guard position.
That's crazy.
So like they knew and I think they if he stayed, great, they'll make it work. But like if we find somebody better and he wants to leave, like so be it. So there are all these people who are whoa, is there a bigger picture going on? And Leon lost the locker room and all this. It was like no, they thought they needed to find a better player there, and they did. So I think that's going to be a big upgrade. And then you're not replacing Buzo. That was a huge loss.
Oh,
I mean, I'm not even the homerish person like me. Whatever. You can't replace Buzo. That his defense, his outside shooting, and I still don't know what led to that. I heard that there was a lot of other people. I heard a lot of other people were involved in that maybe it wasn't Buzo on his own, like saying.
What do you mean, like family?
Agents, dads, people like kind of going out there and other things involved that kind of.
I saw that they have brought in some other dudes at
they've
his
got
position.
like 5 guys that do the exact same thing he does. Yeah,
It'll be
Muscle
really
man.
interesting to see if he even starts.
we probably won't get there because I don't think they have the NIL money left. But like, I wonder if an ACOT situation happens where in a month he realizes he screwed up and tries to come crawling back.
I'd take him, right? Or no?
I think Boise State would probably take him because from what I understand is that he
Eric McAllister situation coming back.
Have the team vote.
that was different. I think that was a little different. I
Yeah.
think that one in the middle of the season he gave up on the team.
Yeah.
This one, like I said, I think there was a lot of other people involved that I don't want to say pushed him to do this, but I don't think this was as simple as him on his own wanting to leave, from what I've heard. So I don't think that'll happen because I don't think they have a spot for. I mean, I don't think you don't get Buchanan and some of these guys if Buzo's here, so I don't think that they would do that. But I mean, ACOT begged to come back. They wanted.
Did he?
Yeah, they wanted. ACOT wanted to come back when it didn't.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It didn't work out at Memphis. They promised him whatever NIL deal, and it wasn't. It didn't come through.
Ooh.
And he,
He's never
I
been
don't
heard
know.
from
Maybe
again.
This might be one of those things we edit out later. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say, but he.
I think that was common knowledge.
Yeah,
I think
I didn't know that.
He wanted to come back, and it was
Yeah.
like August too. And then that was one where he kind of more. I think that they said he kind of gave up on the team at that point. So maybe it's similar to Buzo. I don't know, but and then he ended up at Western Kentucky and didn't really do much there. But so you can't sugarcoat that. That's a huge loss. And Javen Buchanan is not Buzo. And again, I know he's NAIA, but again, he did have Texas Tech, like a Big 12 school, really wanted him, and he visited Nevada right before. So Steve Alford thought he was Mountain West caliber. I mean, and so you have Big 12 teams on him. So again, I know it's NAIA, and is he going to score 20 points a game at Boise State? No, but if you can get 8 to 12 or something, you take that in a heartbeat. So,
Andrew Meadow.
yeah, and Andrew
we think
Meadow.
Andrew-
I think that's the kind of the piece that a lot of people are not really considering in this. They saw what he did last year, and they're like, okay, how is this guy?
He's a true freshman.
Well, he was also playing behind 2 All Mountain West
Yes.
players.
Yeah,
I
that's
saw
gonna
him.
be big.
I saw him in Canada, and again in Canada they were playing like D2 teams, so I get it. But I saw one. He scored 31 points in one of the games in Canada, where he just was just like alpha dog, just dominate, just was doing everything, and it was like the confidence he had. He just took the game over, and I think you can get back to more of that, where if he's not looking over his shoulder, where he's going to be coming out, the game in 2 minutes or whatever else, and he was playing behind Buzo and Tyson. Like there was no what do you want him to What do you want him to do? So I think he is going to be much better this year. I mean, this dude was a star in high school. He's always been a good shooter. You throw in, they really like Chris Lockett, the freshman point guard. Nothing against Jace Whiting, but I think they can easily get what they got from Jace from a guy like Chris.
Here's
so
the
it's like, that's
question we
fine.
all need to know. Who at UNLV owed something
Oh,
to the
great.
Jace Whiting family?
That's a classic.
Did
I'm
he
staying
get
out of this one. I'm staying out of this.
Okay, did he get a scholarship though?
I would assume so. Yeah.
That's
you
crazy.
got to go.
I'm
you
surprised.
Can't leave a scholarship and then
I
go
know.
to a no.
I think
I-
everyone was surprised
yeah.
that he signed with UNLV.
I really thought.
I'm joking, of course, but I just
his
I was surprised.
mom's a BYU women's coach. I really
Yep.
thought a Utah Valley
Yes.
or Weber State or somewhere down there closer to family where he could actually be more of get some more playing time. And not to say that it's like the only level of caliber player he is. I just thought that made more sense for him. But I know that, him and his dad and his family, think he's, they've obviously think highly of their son and that he's got a chance to do some things. And I think for him to stay in the Mountain West and have a chance to kind of prove to some folks at Boise State that maybe he should have played more, great. But he's playing behind Deion Thomas Jr., who was
Yeah, I
the
was
freshman
gonna
of the
say.
year or whatever.
I mean,
so
is he really up? I mean, they must be thinking he's upgrading a situation, right?
I saw in one of the articles they called him a lands Boise State sharpshooter. Because like you look at his stats,
he's
he
a
actually
good-
shot
yeah.
pretty well. He just didn't play enough or shoot
Yeah.
enough. Didn't just get in there very often. But that wouldn't be the first word I'd use for him. But
He had an odd year. He just had an odd year.
Great family. I liked his dad.
Yeah.
Always saw him at the games. I like Jace. Was always nice. Did interviews, so I have nothing negatively to say about him, and I hope he does very well. But yeah, at times he did look a little overmatched. And I don't know. I was a little surprised to see that he went to UNLV.
I was just surprised. It doesn't seem. We'll see.
Kobe Young's the interesting one because he didn't get much playing time at all.
Yeah.
And I know people like Travis Hawks even on Twitter were like, why doesn't Kobe get more playing time? Like he's an athlete. He do all this stuff, but he just never fit. And so I'll be very curious. We're not Pepperdine. Where'd he go?
UC Riverside, maybe.
No,
or something like that? It was one of those.
Not Cal Bakersfield. Cal something.
Cal Fullerton.
Fullerton. Yeah. Fullerton. Yeah.
You
so I'll
the
be
Big
curious to
Big
see. How,
West.
I'll be curious. I'll be curious. To see
when
how
he
does
went in
there,
that Colorado game when Max is struggling, that was an upgrade. That game.
Yeah.
And so I felt like we missed some opportunities there when because Max would play 38, 39 minutes every game, no matter what, right?
I don't know
And
if
there was
Leon
times-
Rice will ever admit this publicly, but I think that just as much as he loved coaching his kid, as much as he loved it, like I think that like the fact that fans can't use that as a criticism, the fact that he doesn't have to even think about the fact that dynamic is like not even on the table now,
Probably nice.
I think is ultimately going to be a positive for this team.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to get there with Cade Rice, but I just think that he'll probably never admit it. I'm sure it was the best 2 years of his life coaching both his kids, and it's a cool thing. But like whether it was deserved or not, that was just the easiest thing for fans to jump at and talk about how he played too much. And he didn't shoot it great, but there weren't a lot of proven options behind him. But people said, oh, maybe Kobe Young or Meadow or whoever should have got more of an opportunity. And we'll never know. And I was always saying like, hey, like at some point, we've seen it. Like at some point, he's going to have that 6 or 7. It happened in the New Mexico game.
Yeah.
But it was just still a little, and the second half of the season was much better, but still just a little too inconsistent. But with that said, he made 74 threes last year, and Buzo made 76. So you're talking about 150 threes from those two.
Yeah.
You throw in, Jace hit like 10 or 11. Kobe had a couple. Cam Martin. I mean, I think it's
Omar?
I think it's third. Yeah. I think it's. That's a funny. I'm chuckling because I'm not a huge fan of him shooting the three. And Abe Jackson, like, if you're open, take it. We'd always say on the pregame show. So one time in the pregame, I'm like, yeah, he's doing great, but I could deal without him using the threes. And he says to shoot, like first possession of the game or something really early, top of the key. Omar pops a three and makes it. And I look over at Abe Jackson, like on the air, going. Pointing at me, like, told you, whatever. So now, like, every time he either makes or misses a three, like, if you look at Abe Jackson, he'll, like, make some comments.
Yeah.
Anyway, they got a lot of threes. I mean, I think it's third. About,
That's the biggest question, right?
Two-thirds of the threes are gone, I think.
Is that
from
the
last
biggest
season.
question going into next year's three-point shooting?
I would say that, and then maybe the backup, like, how they're going to make it work with Anderson. And I've been told that he did really well in the NIL, and like he's not coming in here to back up Omar Stanley. Like he's going to be a starter. So if he's at the 5 and you move or Stanley to the 4, Tyson to the 3, but I think they'll all kind of all mix and match 3, 4, 5 because he can shoot. They can all. Anderson can shoot the 3.
Okay.
And so I mean all those guys. So I still think you'll get Tyson posting up some. It's not like you're just going to have Tyson just be nothing but a outside shooter. But if those 3 are there, and then you have Cardenas at the 1, I think the 2 is. Probably Buchanan. They think. I mean, people I've talked to said like, I mean, this guy's like legit. Like people, it's not going to take long for fans to be like, okay,
Buchanan?
this was a good, yeah. And I get it. He's NAIA. Like it is what it is. Your first question is why was he NAIA? Why, But again, you see that Texas Tech wanted him and he chose here. And like people say like and we interviewed him on BNN. Like great talker, great attitude. Like I think we got to find the guy Simon. I don't know if you guys saw the interview.
Yeah, I heard about that.
He shot out this guy Simon.
Couple times.
Sat next to him on the plane on the way to
Talked up
Boise and
Boise
like
State
talked it up.
crazy
It was
and,
like
sold him on it.
yeah.
Get out.
Yeah,
just
he
like
said,
a fan.
He said he's not a huge fan of flying, and so he like loved that some guy wanted to talk to him. So like they literally talked the entire flight, and like which some people don't want to talk to people on planes, whatever. But like he didn't like fly, and you would think some of these kids are like. Let me listen to my music. I don't need to talk to some fan or whatever. And he would, but like he said the entire flight, he talked to this guy and he loved it. And he's like, shout out Simon because he hyped up Boise in the city for 2 hours or whatever. And then we got there.
He should get some NIL money.
I know.
dude.
We season tickets or something.
Yeah.
We need to have I think it could be like if he has a great year, like get some signs in the stands, for Simon.
Thank you,
Now,
Simon.
at the end of every year,
we
now
find Simon. Yeah.
now we got to send fans throughout the country and just talk to guys that are on the plane. Be like,
Speaking of
spiel.
NIL, is this the first? I know Mike Prater is definitely against what just happened. I think we'll have to talk to him, or you'll have to talk
what
to him
just
next
happened?
week.
You need to get Prater in here, by the way.
I think
That could be quite the episode.
That would be interesting. So to my knowledge, is this the first time we've paid a kid to come in
For basketball?
for basketball?
I gotta be careful with what I say because I don't
Okay.
know. I've heard
That's
some
fine.
stuff, but I've never confirmed a lot of this stuff. But I mean, there was definitely an NIL component to both
Right.
to both these.
You're
players
talking about, is this the first legal time we paid?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but I mean, I think that to this point, it's been, hey, let's make sure we take care of the guys that have produced as Broncos
Yeah.
and keep them.
And you sell the culture, you sell the tradition,
yes.
you sell the city.
Yeah.
And
but
then
I'm interested to see if this is the norm and I don't know what Omar's getting. We know Degenhart, I think, is getting taken care of pretty well. But some of the guys on the team are these new guys that haven't produced. That's getting more money than them. Does that cause some resentment? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. It definitely will be. And my understanding is Tyson still makes the most, and it's still
Yeah.
it's still pure. It's still from the hierarchy is where it should be, I guess,
Okay.
for the most part. But if you're
Yeah.
an Andrew Meadow or a younger guy or whatever, but it's also like, hey, you gotta produce too.
So
I don't know.
When
But,
Buzo left, was it a legitimate concern to be worried about Tyson leaving and getting a huge amount more?
I don't think so, because that's just not him. That's just not his. That's not his. Which I didn't think it was Buzo either. So I guess I should have, whatever. But no, I just from talking to Tyson, like I think he wanted to like. He knew if he let, like he's had such a great career here.
Yeah.
Like he literally has a chance to be the all-time leading scorer if he has a good year. He has like if they've never done. I mean, if they ever get to a point where they put some numbers up in the rafters, I mean, he's got a chance at some point to be up. I mean, he's literally the 3 years he's been here, they've been in the tournament. Like I mean, that's the one thing obviously next year that would cap his career if he was able to get the first win.
He would be an all-time everything.
And I think he already. I mean, I think he. No matter what, I think he will be. If you're a top 5 scorer and you were at 3 NCAA tournaments and a Mountain West championship, regular season and tournament, like I think he probably already will be. But I mean, that would have all been, which we get into our once a Bronco that you want to talk about. But I think if he had left, he doesn't have the same. Like he would have. He can't. They got to stop selling the Degenhart dozens if he leaves. Like so. I mean, I don't know. I think so. I don't think that was ever. He got a lot of talk after his freshman year. I heard schools like after his freshman year really coming after him. But I think at this point, he wasn't going to leave.
Do you think the local married wives in Meridian helped him stay? Do you think there was any like
he came back?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This last week, he was in Lululemon.
I'm just saying, like
they didn't take a picture this time.
A lot of that stuff happened at the same time. I'm just wondering, like, did any of that play?
Look,
so fans are helping.
Look, if
players
it's helping
stay.
Deggy stay, I'm all for it.
Hey, dude,
He
thank
can
you.
stop in and
Thank
see
you,
my
Matt's wife.
I got a question
BJ
for
backs
you.
up. He's like, I'm out of this one.
I need some clarification, BJ,
Yes.
on your tweets.
Yes.
One set of eyes versus 2 sets of eyes.
There's usually.
Is there a scale?
I would say. I
Was
guess
there
no, there's not.
Arbitrary? Is it
No,
just
I think 2 would probably be seen as something bigger, but I don't doesn't mean 2 people versus 1. I actually probably has no. There's no.
Okay.
There's
Tap tap
no,
tap tap.
no.
Fire.
No. And I got to be careful now with how I do that because it's I'm not trying to like make this 3-day Cardenas like waited way too long and.
Yeah, I was going to ask, does that kill you playing that waiting game? Because there were a couple you're waiting for them to announce.
Well, this is college kids for you, but apparently the graphic Boise State made, again, don't know if I should say this, but the graphic Boise State made
wasn't good enough.
Cardenas didn't like it, so he had his own guy make a graphic from Tipton Edits or whatever, and so it took another day to do it.
From Fiverr.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, so like literally they were waiting, like he was waiting to get a graphic that he liked better to post that he was committing. So like I had to.
So you couldn't post your interview.
So
you
it was
couldn't
like
do
24
anything.
hours later, and I'm just like, all these people are like, and I wasn't trying to like drum up this thing. And then at this point, people are thinking it's Bronny James.
Yes, yes, I did. Yes,
I'm like, come on.
well,
No, you did.
Taylor Whitney's like Bronny's
my
coming because
God.
Malachi just came, and we just got this
my
pipeline into Boise State.
I was not trying to like hype that up or whatever, but
Funny.
but sometimes like that's another whole like media, inside baseball discussion where like sometimes they'll tell you something, but they say you can't, you can't say it. So sometimes it's better to not know, I guess. But then like if I know something, I want to have a scoop or let everybody know that I know. But if you can't actually say it, then it's like, so I'm not trying to like. I wasn't trying to like tease people for 3 days, but I was like, oh, okay. There's some, when you get like the DM with the, Spanish flag or whatever, you're like, okay. Then, then you look into it, you're like, oh, they got Cardenas, and it's like, okay.
Interesting.
So there's like, but like, so I knew about Anderson and Buchanan, and I was trying to like, not make it quite as suspenseful. And I basically said it was them without saying it was them this time. But like, I wasn't, I wasn't trying to make people wait for 3 days because then they all think it's somebody way bigger. I saw the Utah State fans because they both committed on the same day.
Who?
They didn't announce it the same day, but Boise State
Buchanan
on the same
and
day
Anderson.
got Buchanan.
That's right.
And in fairness, Travis Hawks put the eye emojis. So then I actually on that one it was Travis. So then I knew both those guys had visited, and that's what I figured it was. So
You
then
said it was going to be a good day.
So I sent out. That was the next morning, yeah. And then
Doug Gottlieb said it's going to be a big day.
he
Remember?
did. He retweeted me on that.
Retweeted
Well,
BJ.
that was the problem. That was the Anderson
Was 2
waited
days
till the
later.
next day, which apparently had something to do with he just wanted to. In this day, you never know. But apparently, schools were still trying to, and they still can. Nothing, but are trying to get Cardenas. Like even though he's already committed to Boise State, other schools are still like until these guys step foot on campus and like enroll in classes in June, they could leave and go somewhere else. So like
even then they're going to get messages, right? Even like during the season, they get messages.
But once
I'm
the
sure.
season starts, like you got him at least for the season. But but like apparently, I
McAllister.
think it was probably smart for a guy like Anderson to make sure like a Degenhardt or a Stanley didn't put his name in at the last minute.
Yeah,
so
that's
waited,
true.
He waited till that deadline, saw that those guys weren't leaving, and the roster is going to be what he thought it was, and then he announced the next day.
That's true.
But he had told those guys the same day, and then. But then they took their time to when they announced it. But I saw some Utah State fans when Buchanan committed. They're like, "Really, the double IMOG for an NAIA player?" You know, and it's like
Utah State fans are the worst.
Maybe
right?
I'll just stay. No, we could go down a list.
Wait, I was gonna say that's a good one for you to probably rank because you get hit from everybody.
There's probably a couple on there. New Mexico fans.
Oh
you know.
yeah.
New Mexico basketball.
It's probably about time. It's probably about time for another power rankings to come out, and we can see who we can.
Yeah,
I made
exactly.
one tweet about New Mexico fans when I was down there, and
you got eviscerated.
I was part of a thread for 3 weeks, man, because I said something about their fans.
No,
are
say
nuts.
it. Say it. What did you say?
Remember.
I'll tell it to you. It was like you got personal, but it was so funny, dude.
Yeah,
you talked about
what
their
did I
mortgage.
say? Something that
That was for the was that
You
for the
talked
non-West
about-
tournament?
Yes.
Yeah, you talked about
I
their
think I said
mortgage
something
payments
that
and stuff.
Every fan down there was rooting for that team as if their mortgage depended on it.
I know. It's like,
But yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, they were passionate. I'll give them that for sure.
Yeah, I would say they can at times be definitely Utah State definitely. Nevada's. I don't think I had too many problems with Nevada fans. They're some of the worst like at the games though.
Oh yeah.
Because we sit right in front of them for basketball, and some of the stuff they yell is by far the worst.
Nevada?
Nevada.
Rough town.
San Diego State, like they're fine. I don't want to say Viejas Arena is overrated, but like in terms of like loudness, it's big and it's loud, but I don't think it's got like the constant noise like a Utah State has or New Mexico even has.
Is Utah State the coolest, or is it the pit? I mean, as far as like
if New Mexico's good and the pit's rocking, the pit's pretty
pit's-
cool.
yeah.
I mean, they're walking down the tunnel and to get there and that whole thing is pretty cool. But yeah,
He's got it. You
I
got it.
have it.
yeah. What do we got?
Is it worth reading?
It's definitely fine.
on.
It's definitely fine. So like Mark started it by saying
there was a lot of
win or lose, I'll say this right now. I've never seen a more trashy and obnoxious fan base than New Mexico. The pit would be absolutely unbearable. You've been in the belly of the pit many times.
Yeah.
This
To
is like
BJ's
nasty
point.
and
It was
inebriated, Mark.
But then
It
he
was-
took it to another level because he tried to sandwich it, but he reversed it. He did bad, good, bad. So he went with the bad, and then this is the good. I'm cool with students being crazy. I admire their passion. And then, boom, I've never seen that level of desperate, obnoxious behavior by a fan base. Guys, 70s years old, cussing out refs like their mortgage is on the line.
I
Kinda went personal on
I was
that one.
sitting
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
By
There's
the way,
a lot of that.
by the way, Mark's the king of like the taking a shot with one tweet and then back,
Yeah.
backtracking
Yeah.
with the
We've
next.
talked about that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'll own that. Because if someone presents to me like I was wrong, I'll admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, and I don't like being a jerk. And sometimes I actually do feel bad. So I do that.
Back off.
I
Yeah.
totally do that. I admit it.
The thing about it, though, is if you weren't so active on Twitter, we wouldn't have as much to cover. Which is nice.
Just-
Which is nice from
We
our
talk
end.
about
It's like
Minecraft.
so nice to have
Actually, it's
that.
probably hurting us a little bit because we've thought about getting certain guests on the show, and I'm like, and I'm in charge of getting guests sometimes. I'm like, if these guys go back and look at my tweets,
Well, even Hawks
we're in trouble,
came and
man.
said, people offline come to me and say, do you know this M. Moss guy? Like, what type of bastard's that guy? And we're like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Dude, what's with the guy? He calls you Ralph Macchio. You think that's legitimate?
What are we talking about?
There's a guy on, I forget his name, and he'll comment, I'm sure. But when Grant Hedrick was here, we took a picture.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, you know,
I
Grant
didn't
joining us in
understand
studio, and
that
he's like, yeah,
reference.
Grant Hedrick and Ralph Macchio. You know the Karate Kid guy?
Yeah.
Oh,
but do I
he
He
look
thinks
like
you
that
look like
guy?
him.
Oh.
And
I don't know.
I would say more like Mr. Miyagi, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, where the thing we are missing out is your parody account. Kind of went away.
Oh, the burner.
It went
Yeah.
away. Someone had a burner.
That was sad.
There was a Mark.
Yeah, there was a
I know
burner.
you made it. Yeah.
For like a
Someone
month.
made one of me, but it just wasn't funny, and then it died, and like no one stopped retweeting him, and it just went away. But it was like cool.
Yeah.
do that.
That guy was pretty funny. But
That was good.
I did. BJ teased it a little bit. I kind of wanted to talk about once a Bronco, always a Bronco.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, lay it all out. What do you got?
Okay. That is a phrase. I don't know whoever started that, right? And I get it, like when guys are graduating and leaving, and
I bet
hey,
it was Harson.
once a Bronco, always
Feels
a
like
Bronco. They're always welcome back. Some of the fans, I mean, so we have these guys that choose to transfer. I think Ogbo was the one that I kind of reacted to, and it's like there's fans that
I saw it for CJ Tiller too.
Well, and that's fine. Like guys leave, I don't really care. But for fans to go out and be like, once a Bronco, always a Bronco, when they transfer, it just seems desperately like
Good
it's
luck,
like
Chibuzo, whatever. Always once a Bronco, always
it's
a
like,
Bronco. Yeah,
dude, your wife just left you for a richer, better looking dude, and you're like, hope you love it. Hope your life's way better than it was with me. I don't get it.
Once
I
a
don't-
Moss, always a Moss.
No, yeah, I don't know. I don't get it, man. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It just
Well,
seems
it's just
so
different.
desperate
It's
and
different
so-
because
they're not. What I'm saying is, if they felt that way, the player, they wouldn't leave. They're leaving because they feel something is better, money, whatever, and they're. I don't know. I just think.
Well, you're
it
not. I mean,
seems so
Hank
desperate.
Bach. Chibuzo Abo can't come back to like
No.
a game as a fan, like or any alumni functions or like whatever. Like you're not part of the.
No.
Yeah.
You're Greg. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but like even if you're here 3 years, but you leave for the last year, like, or if somebody comes in for their like Cardenas, like. Believe it or not, 1 year versus 3. He'll be able to, like, he graduated, he played his last
Yes.
year here. Like, you could, in a way, count somebody like that over a guy that chose to leave. Like, Hank Bachmeier can't come back, and Talon Green, like, all these
No.
guys that transfer. You can't come back and be the Broncos social at the spring game. You're not going to see
No.
Talon Green there. Like, but yeah, the fans are like, thank you so much. Good luck at Arkansas. Once a Bronco, always a Bronco. It's like, really?
I think
You don't have to be mad they left.
you
You don't have to like whatever. Be like,
Just
screw
that
you. But yeah,
phrase is just like, no, it's not really, and that's not how they feel. So you don't have to feel that way either. I don't know. It just
Well, it's just different culture. I mean, that's how they grew up, right? I mean,
Oh.
I think a lot of people saying that kind of grew up as like once you're on that team,
Yeah,
you're always
yeah,
part of
yeah.
that team, and so I get it.
but it's not
And it's such a
really-
different,
I don't know, man.
different world now.
I get it, but stop saying it, right?
That's
Yeah.
kinda how I feel.
well, yeah. If you leave early, you're not
A Bronco.
you're not a
So
Bronco.
you're with me on that.
Yes, definitely.
Odd.
By the way, I can always know when your guys' group chat's going because I'll see like somebody, Mark Moss will like take a shot at somebody, and then 10 seconds later I see Jeff Miner with a very similar tweet at the same person, and I'm like, oh, they're all talking about something on there. I need to. I'm not lucky enough to be on that group chat. but I can,
We've thrown it around a bunch of times, but then if any history was included in that,
oh yeah.
there's like a lot of risk
You
and
can't go
liability
back.
out
Oh.
there.
Everybody's group chats are like that. I'm convinced.
Yeah, it's pretty good. no, it's
man.
pretty good. No, anyway.
Jeff's toned it down though too. You talk about toning it down.
Yeah, I think
He had to tone it down when Leon, who's a saint, by the way, sent him all that stuff. So my brother's house burned down.
That was one of the better stories I wrote.
That was
after
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool thing. And Jeff was relentless on Leon for years. And then Leon,
Then Leon sends him a bunch of gear.
sends him like, "Hey, sorry about your house. Here's all this amazing stuff." And Jeff's like, "Wow, I'm the douchebag here." It's like I am that guy. But he's starting to tend back into that. Like he'll dip his toes in the waters.
Yeah,
but
and he'll usually follow Mark's lead. He's like, I piled on.
yeah,
He's like, yeah, I did that.
yeah.
He lets Mark go first. Then
Yeah.
he comes in.
Yeah, if you want to have a good troll, like I think Jeff was the original, and for a while, to Jeff's credit, he stood up against everybody on Leon Rice that last year. Who was that guy? Derek Alston Jr.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a tough year for Leon because we had Acott, we had Keyjab, and we had Alston. I think Shaver was on that team. It was like one of our first, like, we could be close. And it sort of, struggled there at the end. And Jeff was vehemently against Leon, and everybody on Twitter was, like, attacking Jeff. And that's how he gains power. That's how he gains energy. It's like absorbing the hate that way. And so it's actually pretty funny from the outside in. Anyway.
Some people,
It's a good time.
some people are like that. They love. I get that too because whenever Boise State loses, there'll be the same 4 people that all of a sudden tweet at me. Like,
Yeah.
they don't tweet anything when they win. They're very quiet,
Yeah.
and it's so weird too because like
That's not me, by the way.
That's
no,
you
no,
at
no.
basketball, by
That's
the way.
not me. No, it's not.
but they do like call. I mean, like they consider themselves a Boise State fan, but yet they literally get
relish in
get
that.
enjoyment out of
Losing. Weird.
ripping when they lose. Like it's a really weird thing. Like you're either a fan or I don't know. I've never understood that. But all these guys come out of nowhere when they lose, and like like some guy when Buzo left, or who was it? Oh no, I can't remember. Oh, when Roddy Anderson was visiting St. Louis, some guy was like, "Oh, you must want to have a chance to win in March or something." I was
You're like,
I was
hello.
like, St. Louis hasn't been to the tournament since 2014. Like, okay, like some of this is just whatever. It's the same, winning whatever. It's
How much do we really like? How much do you? I feel like how much do you really know some of these players? Like, for example, CJ Tiller. Okay, understandably, he decides to transfer. He's probably told he's going to be third, and he transfers fine. I remember, this would be a better question for Jay, but I remember right after that, Jay Tuss tweeted something to the fact of, I don't know about this, that, or that, but I do know that this would have been really tough for him because he loved Boise. I know that he loved Boise State or whatever. And I'm like, how do you know? And this is just an example, but it's like, how do you know that? We don't know that. We just found out yesterday that CJ Tiller just signed with Utah State, okay? He went from being third string at Boise State to third string at Utah State, right? So, I mean,
they brought in 2 transfers.
Yes.
So, I mean,
So he's
theoretically, it's a 3-man competition, I
they already
guess.
named
But yeah, I
one
know.
dude,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
2 of their high school kids already transferred. So
Yeah.
he's starting at third place, right?
Utah, and then where was the other guy? Or,
Iowa.
Iowa, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But it's I don't know. It's just not about CJ, but just
Yeah.
in general, I feel like we probably need to be out of the business of thinking we know these kids
I would agree with that.
and they're at it. Just
No, you do talk to parents. Like, there is a lot of times where when I'm like making an opinion on something, it's not, I'm playing it off as an opinion, but I also know for a fact, like, whether talking to the kid's dad or somebody else's dad, or like there's ways around stuff where I hear something, I'm like, oh, maybe this is the case. Like, I can't flat out and say, oh, this guy, whatever. But I would say that sometimes happens, but we usually don't. I mean, I would say basketball is a little different because, like, when I travel with basketball, like, we'll stay I usually end up staying in, like, the same hotel, and you see the guys, you can actually talk to them. Or football's, like, they're just shielded from everything, and you get your 10-minute interview with them, and you don't talk to them, and maybe Jay talks to them different times. I don't know. But no, we have no idea. Like,
Well, Deggy doesn't he have a program with BNN?
he does.
Yeah,
He does.
so you get to know him.
And we've
a little
renewed
more.
that for another year. So
Hey.
the ICCU is back for year 2 of the Tyson Degenhard show. We're actually doing an episode. But I don't know when this is going to be posted, but
tonight, tomorrow.
okay, we're doing one later this week. His girlfriend is on the softball team.
Yeah.
We're hosting
that's right.
She's gonna, and then we're hoping to have Dylan Anderson on too. So
Sweet.
yeah, on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Your company,
Yes.
are you missing an insurance sponsor? Do you ever get requests for insurance?
Yeah,
Insurance one?
that's been a tough one. Yeah, I've had to cut employees. I've had to. Yeah, it's been. That's been tough.
Brandon.
Something to consider,
Yeah, I'm missing a dentist too.
That's right. That's right.
That's why I like
Maybe physical therapy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Maybe.
He sponsored a hole, I think, at the golf tournament one
Sure
year.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
There you go.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. You guys had the matching polos out there. You had Mike Burns and a
That was fun.
polo.
That was
fun.
the
We were on the
dentist
dentistry
year,
on that
okay.
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
good.
yeah.
That was sweet.
That'll be interesting. Speaking of with Spencer Danielson, do you think? I mean, sounds like you think that media relations might be slightly different.
Dude, it's night and day.
Already.
And we had a meeting with Spencer about a month before spring ball. It was a couple of us, main guys, went in there, and sat in the actually it was the coaches war room. We saw their board and everything in there. It was their conference room. And we literally, it was supposed to be a 30-minute meeting or whatever. And we were there almost 2 hours, and he had to blow off something else. And he told the people, no, tell them this is more important or whatever. And
Whoa.
a couple of times. Yeah. And so we sat in there and talked about media policies. What would we like to see? What do we not like about how it's been? What do we like? And
Everything.
it wasn't oh, I'm going to just say yes to everything. It was just tell me what you want and I'll tell you why we can or can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his iPad out and he was taking legitimate. He's oh, yeah, I can see that. And he'd put it down and and then within a week, 3 things that we had asked for happened. And my understanding is it's going to be the same moving forward. And I think it's because this is Boise, Idaho. This isn't New York. This isn't LA. And I think that the media, if a coach is smart, they can use it to your advantage
Totally.
and stuff. Not to say oh, you're going to be friends with them and it's just going to be nothing but positive coverage. Because I know people do oh, you're just a Leon Holm or whatever. That's fine. But I think if there's negative stuff that needs to be said, it's not I'm afraid to say it. I've had Leon call and get mad at me several times. It's not it's not whatever.
Was that over Thanksgiving dinner though?
Oh,
Easter,
here we go.
Remember that?
Easter brunch. Yeah. No.
You remember when Moss got?
I tweeted something. This is years ago.
Yeah.
I thought that
Do
was
you remember
Jeff.
that?
Was that you? Okay.
No,
yeah.
that was
that
me.
was him.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then in his press conference, he said,
Yeah, I forget if I sent it to him or if he saw it somehow. And then he's yeah, we'll discuss that over Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
that was so funny.
Because he saw the tweet or whatever.
Oh,
yeah,
man, that's
but
funny.
I think
So you're
Leon
right.
does do a good job to be hey, I don't like those post game shows on the road when like he comes on and puts the headset on and comes with on. Like, he doesn't have to do that. Like, but because like
he knows that
there's I made the effort to pay whatever it costs to fly to Laramie, Wyoming. He's gonna like make it worth it to me, and he comes on my show. And like in the morning those days, like if they have like they call it shoot around. It's like a practice like at noon on the day of the games. And a lot of times, like if I'm just sitting around the hotel and he sees me, he's like, hey, you come, feel free to come to shoot around today. And so like the day of the game, I'll just like, I don't report anything I see, but I can come hang out and see it. And like, but like they get like, they do, they're more available to come on our shows. They're more stuff. And like, if there's I think it does probably help a little bit. Like, we're talking about like with Andy and like Jordan K or whatever, but like Jordan K would have like no reason. Like if you could write the story where it'd be a negative slant towards Andy or a positive slant, like just subconsciously, whatever, like, if you don't like the guy or you don't like how he handles it, you're not out to get him, or it's not like some vendetta, but like if it's a 50-50 story on something where you could take the positive side, could take the negative side, you're going to probably take the side that you're, whether the person's whatever. And so I do think even going back to Harsin, probably for the most part, they didn't really understand like the asset that like the media could be.
Yeah, I agree.
And so the basketball staff certainly gets it. And you go to a basketball practice and they're like, half the team would come over and they shake your hand and say, how you doing? Oh, good to see you. The coaches, whatever. It's like a welcoming kind of friendly place. For a lot of times there at football before Spencer, you'd walk out there, because like it's periods 3 through 5. So we'd all come walking out at the same time after being in our little pen or whatever, waiting for our 15 minutes. And we walk out there and then you can tell right away, everyone's like,
don't say anything.
Can't wait for these 15 minutes to be over. They want to get us out of there right away. It's a totally different feel. I would say at almost every practice since Spencer took over in the spring, in the middle of some drill at some point, he would like jog over and like shake hands with the media and say like, hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. And like, and it's small stuff like that. Like I'm not saying Spencer Danielson's trying to be like our buddies, so we only write positive stuff towards him. Like that's not it. But there is a little give and take, I think, with the media coverage where in the past people like Andy, like part of his downfall was, I think, like that all the media didn't like him, and he never got any benefit of the doubt on social media. If a fan would like rip him, no one would like deny that or take it back. And I don't think like, and I think even like Harsin to an extent, I don't think he was as bad, but I don't think they realize like that if you're just not a complete a-hole to the media, like again, not to say they're just going to do nothing but like kiss your ass, but I think when you're losing a couple games or times are tough, if we all liked Andy, maybe it would have been a little bit different. Like if Leon was a complete whatever, I guarantee you there'd be more people saying like, oh man, yeah, I can't win in March. That stuff would be, you don't hear much of that from the media side, from a Prater or something, but like, I don't think, and that's not because we're, best friends with them or that we whatever. I just think that like subconsciously, like over time, it's like, when it's borderline whatever, you're going to go with the side of the, if he's whatever. Right. So I think that's, I think Spencer definitely gets that. I think the policies are going to be different. I heard like one rumor that maybe even like fall camp is going to be completely open for practices. We've had way more interviews, way more. You see guys not going to like the KTIK studio for interviews. That stuff never happened. We're getting way, way more stuff than we used to. And again, I think my whole thing was like, that doesn't hurt anybody. Like tell more stories about these players, like let fans get to know these guys more. Like there's no, like they're just so protective of like the media and like that getting out and all this. And so we had the meeting with Spencer, we took all these notes. Within a week, like we saw some like, we got to watch all of the spring practices. They moved the interviews to a different location that we had asked for. I think it's going to be hopefully a lot different this year.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. I think my recollection was
successful.
when Andy. Oh, I totally.
So,
he seems
so
like such
bad.
a good dude. My recollection was when Andy was hired, there was similar hopes.
There
Certainly
was.
Not. I'll be interested to see.
That was the
what
only
happens.
text message I ever got responded from Andy when he got the job.
Oh, really?
I sent him a text and said, "Hey, congrats, welcome back. Look forward to working with you." And he's like, something like, "Let's get it, brother," or something.
Yeah.
That appreciate
That's
you,
it.
brother. And then if you remember in the press conference, he gave me a shout out. It was on Zoom because it was like still kind of COVID stuff. Yeah. But it was this really weird, awkward thing where I think either he had been told to say it or I still don't know what was behind that. But he starts to answer the question. And he stops. He's like, "It's good to hear from you, man. Really appreciate what you're doing for the community or something." It was this really weird shout out from Andy during the introductory press conference or whatever. And I was like, okay, that was nice of him to say, whatever. But then and so we did think it was going to be different.
But it really was.
And it wasn't. It got worse.
Yeah. And it's
Quick.
interesting.
Really
It'll be interesting to see when everything's good right now. When it gets stressful, obviously they're two different people, two different everything. But I mean, we kind of think, or I think that part of Andy's downfall was just massive amount of stress. with just the program and the weight of the program and losing and just the way he handled it obviously wasn't.
And I've heard like the
appropriate.
hours he made coaches work and stuff was
just
a lot.
like he was.
I've heard. Yeah,
he held it. No one doubts that he wanted it really, really bad. But I don't know. Everyone, when he got hired, I was excited. Everyone was excited, and it just went off the rails.
I mean, again, nothing bad with against a Kurt Absey,
Oh, stop
somebody
it.
like
everything. Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is I think like being the main guy is you don't realize from the second chair. Like when you're the defensive coordinator, the players can like you more because they can all hate the head coach, whatever else. Like you're not the final guy. I think I think when he was the defensive coordinator, he was a legit great D coordinator. Yeah. Like, most of the players did really like him. He was a player. I think that's why a lot of people were pumped when he came back.
Yeah.
But that didn't translate from D coordinator to head coach. And so far with Danielson, I think it has. And I think I heard a lot of stories about when Kurt Absey was the number 2 guy, he got so much done with the facilities and did a lot of stuff.
Did he really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
He was the
main one that got the Stickle Sky Center and the whole Blameyer Center and all that stuff. He
Credit
did.
to him.
Yeah, but when you're in the number credit to him.
I guess.
Well,
but
Mark, give him credit.
No,
I
whatever.
heard
all I'm
that he was a
saying
big
is-
fundraiser. We don't need to rehash.
Yeah, all I'm saying is it's a lot different when you're the one making the final decision on
Yeah.
stuff and having to do more media and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what he does at TCU if he goes there as the D coordinator and does fine. But it's a lot different when you're the head coach. So I'm hopeful. Spencer, I'm really hopeful.
Yeah.
Hey, it's time for 5 questions.
Boom.
5 questions.
You need a
with
break
BJ
before
Raymond.
No, I legitimately might be the first 0-5 on the show here.
Setting the bar low over here.
Yes. Trivia, I would be the worst person ever to ask to be on your bar trivia team.
With all the sports knowledge that you have?
I know some. Yeah, I know obscure, very obscure, weird sports stuff, like some of the generic stuff. I'm just for whatever reason I'm not great, but
Well, guess what? Most of it isn't sports related.
There you go.
that's worse though. Music and stuff. I'm terrible. I'd actually probably rather have sports, but
I don't think there's any music.
all right, we'll see. What do we got?
5 questions with BJ Rains. Question number 1. You went to the University of Kansas.
I did.
That's not the question.
Dang. I'm counting that as half a win.
Which one of these people did not go to the University of
Oh,
Kansas?
boy.
Paul Rudd, Bob Dole, Ashton Kutcher, or golfer Gary Woodland?
Ashton Kutcher.
That's correct.
Oh, Paul Rudd did go?
I got one.
Hey,
Yeah,
all right.
Paul Rudd is a big time.
I thought he was Kentucky.
No, Jason Sudeikis. All those guys are like Kansas City KU guys. Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher did
not.
not?
When Sudeikis
I knew Woodland.
Bob Dole's from Kansas, and then Gary Woodland, the golfer. Yeah, so that was actually all right.
See?
Thank you for
There
giving
we
me one.
Wow,
I got one.
hey.
All right. What's I assume someone's gotten 5. I assume.
No.
Nobody.
Oh, well, that
think
one.
Look how confident he is.
All of a sudden, I'm going for 5.
I think the highest is 3.
Oh,
I
wow.
think it's 3.
Well, I got one. All right. Here we go.
Both
What did
ball
John Matt?
game,
What ball game?
BJ
did?
went from here
ball
to
game
here.
and Southern both got 3.
Okay. That was probably. I guarantee that's the only
Southern
one.
had some tough ones.
That's the
too,
only
dude.
one I'll get, but that's
You can't get mad at me for this one.
all right.
I mean, some of them are just, you just throw them out there.
All right.
Number 2, you can only have one for the rest of your life. Burgers or pizza?
I love this one. I've thought about this so many times.
So how do you get this right or wrong?
You say an answer, and if it matches with what
Yeah.
I have, you got it right. This is according to what I think,
What he's written down.
what I've written down.
Pizza.
That's correct.
Oh! Which is odd. I
Let's
would
go.
pick burgers. I've thought about that many
Really?
times. I do burgers. Just kidding. I thought more versatility. But
2 for 2.
Wow.
wow, good job.
Let's go.
It's on a roll, folks.
BJ's
go,
like
let's
ready
go.
to
This-
go.
Let's go.
Okay, true or false?
I'm liking my odds already.
Yeah, 50-50. On New Year's Eve, going into the year 2000, Brandon, a 16-year-old
Oh, yeah, okay.
at
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
got a New Year's Eve kiss from a random woman in her 40s. True or false?
Yeah. The year 2000, because the
Yeah.
year matches. Yeah,
It was
the year's
going
important
into
here.
the big Y2K thing.
I mean, I assume the answer has to be yes.
Final answer?
I want to hear the story, so I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I'll. I think it should be yes, so it's probably no. Gosh, this is playing with mind games here. I'll go yes. Why not?
That's correct. True.
Yeah. That was a low moment for
We'll
a
have
lot
to
of
tell
people.
the story
Yeah,
after.
yeah. Oh, I can tell the story now. I don't really care. Yeah, so we were It's not a proud moment for me or the lady who's probably 70 years old now.
60 at least.
At least 60. Yeah. So we were young
Downtown.
for the drop for like the the new millennium.
Did they do the potato back then?
No.
It wasn't.
not
No,
yet.
but we were one
It
of
was
the
a big
cities.
deal.
Yeah.
It was the one city in the mountain time zone of the whole world.
Yeah, and there was like
it was Boise.
hot air balloons that they lit up or
Down
whatever.
Capitol Boulevard. It
And
was
you
a
know,
big deal.
And this is when everyone was freaking out that the world.
Yeah,
Y2K.
It was a
Yeah.
big deal. It was a big deal.
So there was a lot on the line for me. I needed something, and I was 15 or 16 or
16.
something.
Yeah.
And
Red, your brother
Matt had
was
a
there.
girlfriend,
My brother Russ was
and I
there.
don't know if you had a girlfriend there at the time, and everybody was, getting a little action. So I walk around looking to see if I can get lucky.
And you find my older
And
brother's
your
friends.
brother's over there making out
No,
with
no, no,
some
my
old
brother
lady.
wasn't.
Okay, well
It was
I
his
remember your
friend.
brother there, but anyway, they're passing around some old.
Passing around.
Her husband's there. Everybody's smiling. She'd had a few. And I kind of wander up to it. And then next thing I know, we're just getting after it. Me and this 45-year-old woman with her husband right there.
It was
and
a pack, right?
We went for a
Oh,
little
boy.
bit,
Oh, boy.
and
More than a pack, dude.
yeah, and I walk away.
Was cool with it?
I was standing
He
right
didn't
there.
he didn't fight me. I walked away yeah, I'm the man.
It was not good.
And later on, I kind of felt the shame and felt the different things that go along with it.
It
What was the
not
phrase? They were
good.
passing her around.
That's how I remember it. That's how I remember it.
BJ's worrying about us editing some of his stuff.
I just,
Wow.
That's how I remember it. And honestly, with Russ,
pretty accurate.
I'd like to talk to him about it. But
Yeah,
we
it's pretty
three
Anyway,
for three
3 for
already.
3.
How
yeah,
about
those
it?
are bad.
You already are.
Tied for the lead.
I'm earning this shirt here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a shirt here. Southern's probably going to say we're throwing you softballs.
The two of them, I don't
Yeah,
really take
Mallory
much,
for sure.
Yeah.
Man, as we get into these, I may have done them a little too easy, but we'll see.
All right.
Trying to think about how much information I give you. We're gonna start off not giving.
I was
you
gonna say
enough.
I'm already happy with 3. So
Okay,
give
here
me
we go.
as tough as you
This
want,
former Montreal Expo was a National League All-Star in 7 consecutive seasons, so 81 to 87, and was named the most valuable player of the 1987 All-Star Game. Former Montreal
It's
Expo.
not Andre Dawson, is it?
Did he get it?
Did you hold on? Did you listen to the hint Mark told you before we started?
Oh. Yeah.
Your name or where you're from. Think about those things.
I
already missed it, so let me think about.
The judges allowed a little more time.
You're a baseball guy.
I know I should get to this.
By
is
trade.
The 80s. But I was born in 85, so. Yeah, I'm gonna be really mad when I hear this. I know. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do we got?
We can't accept that.
Yeah.
Tim Raines.
Oh, Tim Raines.
Raines.
Oh.
BJ Raines. Tim.
I
No
think
relation.
of Tim Raines is oh, that's a bad one.
Not as an expo.
Did you know Tim Raines?
Do you think of him
No,
more of as
no,
a?
but a lot of people spell my name with an E, like Tim Raines, and there's no E in my
yeah,
last
there's
name.
no E.
Like ES? Is that how he spells it?
Yep.
3 for
Well,
4.
All right, you could still beat it.
I actually feel better because the other 2 were pretty easy, so I'm glad I missed one.
I wasn't gonna tell you that he was an expo. Maybe that threw you off.
Was he on the White Sox?
He may have been.
That's what I think
I
of
remember
too.
him as an expo.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 5. What 3 items make up the tour of Italy at Olive Garden?
Chicken Parmesan? Was it really? Oh, wow. That was a great guess. Oh,
I think I know.
something with the meatball, probably meatballs.
You got to be more specific.
Have you had the tour of Italy?
No, I haven't been to Olive Garden in years.
Sounds so good. I don't know why it sounds
I
so
want to
good.
say like salad and breadsticks, but I'm sure that's
No,
not.
come
that's
on, get outta here, yeah.
It's got to be
You got chicken
Is
parm.
it something with the spaghetti and meatballs?
No,
Some sort of-
can't accept that.
Yeah. Can I try it? Yeah, lasagna's in there.
Lasagna's in there.
And then
What's the third one?
fettuccine.
Fettuccine Alfredo.
Wow. Are they still open on the way home, man?
Yeah.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
3 for 5.
Not bad.
And,
Yeah,
the,
not
and the
bad.
actual questions, I think I went 1 for 3 or 1 for 3. So
Yeah.
Those are good.
Did you throw those last 2 to not make ball game
Yeah.
and
there
Southern
you
feel
go,
bad?
Probably.
how many Grant Hendrick get?
2.
2.
He was 2.
But yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the 2 I got right were true or false, basically. So I can't really take too much.
You're good.
No,
That's like being a
any
A lot of
correct
people
answer
are
is
getting-
acceptable.
Yeah.
That's like being a 20 handicap and beating like a scratch golfer because you got 18 free shots. You can't really celebrate that. It's
Mallory
like,
had
you
a
know,
tough one because he had to guess a color
Of a highlighter.
of a highlighter. And so it's just like a tough position to be in.
Speaking
you
of
know?
golfing, we need to go golfing.
Oh, shout out
I
to
haven't-
Reigns on.
I haven't
Oh, the
played-
round
like
of your
the best-
I
life.
haven't played within 15 strokes.
this guy
time I-
this guy invites me out. He's like, I'm not. He's telling me what his average score is. I'm like, oh, he's about in my range. Not that great, whatever. I mean, he is just putting for birdie or eagle on every hole. I think he made I think he did eagle like
Couple
a
eagles.
I
Yeah,
think I
40-foot putt for eagle or something. And I'm just like, what is going on here?
like a 69. I don't think I've shot below an 83
Wow.
since.
I remember you
it's
almost
like
got a
2 years
hole in
ago.
one.
Where were we at?
Red Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great course.
That was my first time playing there too.
That's a
So
fun
it was
course.
new course.
It's not Timberstone, but
no, it's
a
not
good
bad.
course.
So-
yeah, you did have a hole in one. I almost had a hole in one.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Just passed out.
You know,
for
he
4
was
hours.
my partner in league, and I wish that would have happened a few more
Not
times.
even
and
close.
Never
dude.
even
I haven't
close
been
to that.
Anywhere near that since then.
You couldn't hit a bad shot that round if you tried.
It was crazy.
He was,
We need to play
the
again.
one rare time he'd miss the green, he'd chip in from off the green or whatever. It was just like, it was like, what is going on
It was
here?
crazy.
So speaking of golf, you have an event coming up, right?
Yeah, the golf May 31st.
Yeah.
We got a few foursomes. The morning sold out, but we got a few foursomes left in the afternoon. So we'll have.
So what time does that start? The afternoon stuff.
Afternoon starts at 1:30. Come around noon, have lunch, use the range. It's all the same sponsors, all the same stuff as the morning.
And what day is it?
Friday, May 31st.
Friday, May 31st.
And you talk about Spencer Danielson, like, will stuff be new?
Yeah.
Spencer Danielson will be out there.
Nice.
And that's the first time any football coach has ever, like, responded at all to it. And they're supposed to fly somewhere for a camp later that day. And he's like, oh, I'll change the entire coaching staff's going on some private plane for this camp. He's like, oh, well, I'll just push it back a few hours. I want to be there for this. I'm like, okay. And he's changing the workout time. So, like, a lot of the players can be there too. Like, it's crazy.
gets
It's
it, man.
crazy.
Dude,
He gets it.
It's
no
crazy.
kidding. I remember, so the first year, 2 years ago, we tried to go, or we went,
Yeah.
and we tried to get a player to go. And
Call
to
him
the-
out. Call him out. Come on.
Can I call him out?
Yeah.
I mean, so
I wanna
Avalos-
know.
so
I
at
don't
the-
know. I don't know.
Well, anyway, at the time,
A
so my
prominent defensive player
Yeah,
with a.
Avalos
and he was a
wouldn't let him
good
off.
guy, and Avalos wouldn't let him come.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the dentist, my brother, the Boise Dentistry Co guy, was gonna have JL Skinner there taking pictures, and it was a big deal. And he kind of paid some money to do that. And then JL tried to make it. To his credit, tried to make it, but Avalos is like, no, you can't go to this event.
Yeah. So Lithia Ford is they sponsor the hole in one. If you get a hole in one, you like win a car, and they've got the NIL athletes Ahmed Hassanin and Andrew Simpson, and they want to come out and like sit at the hole and do autographs and pictures when you come by, and so they'll be doing that. And because normally they had workouts, and he's like, no, we'll move things around so you guys can be there. So Jonah Dalmas, I think, and Maddox Madsen are going to be our celebrity shot guys.
That's cool.
So we're raising money for Idaho Youth Sports Commission, great local charity. They help like the underprivileged youth that can't afford to like play sports. They buy them a baseball glove or pay for their league dues.
Yeah, I
Or
remember that.
They
I
do
remember those.
camps. They do like single day camps, and then they also do like camps for in clinics for coaches free of charge and stuff, and do a lot of great stuff around the community. And so and then we used the money from last year for the Potato Bowl. They both teams went and helped buy new cleats and athletic shoes for some local kids, and they used the money from the golf tournament to pay for all the shoes. So so we're looking forward to that May 31st. And we still got a few, and we're doing something new this year. The night before, we're doing kind of a happy hour cocktail party type thing the night before, and Spencer will be there, and I think Leon's going to be there also. I haven't totally confirmed that, but that'll be more of a kind of meet and greet, and we'll do a little Q&A. And we've done it over lunch the last couple of times. But last year we did the afternoon flight for the first time, and it just took too long, and it was a lot on my plate on one day. So we're going to try the program part of it the night before, so we can just play golf, and have lunch the next day, and see how it goes.
Try to win the longest drive.
Yeah, we got the sponsor of the longest
United
drive.
Commercial
Right?
Church.
Yes.
Yeah, we're sponsoring
You get
that.
the prizes
Getting
yet?
prizes.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of swag.
The only problem is last year you weren't there last year. You guys were on
wasn't.
some golfing
Yeah,
trip.
in Scotland.
But after we had it for the closest to the pin and the longest drive. After the morning session, the people like picked up the. We originally intended to have like the same, for both. Now I think we need to have a morning and an afternoon prize, because in the morning afterwards they picked up they come bringing it into the clubhouse. We're like, no, there's another
you gotta
group.
get that out
There's
there,
another group. Where was it? And so we end up having to redo it. And
Where was it?
I actually keep forgetting to take it back, but I still have. They couldn't, because on the 18th hole of the afternoon session last year, it started pouring down rain, and it was a perfect day. It was great, but literally on the last hole, it just started pouring down rain. So people are just throwing stuff into cars and at the end cleaning up, and
running out.
I still have the like steak for the long drive thing that Timberstone's probably been looking for and had to buy a new one for in my car, and so I'll return it next year. But
Well, we'll see you. If you're out there, we'll see you.
Yeah.
Excited for that event. It'll be fun.
We got to get going, I know, but I think we need, while we have BJ here, I'm sure we won't have him again before the season. Can we get a quick 90-second, what do you think the season, football season, give us a record, regular season record. What do you think the outlook is like for this season?
let's go 10-2.
Okay.
But I think that is still good enough. I think they make the playoff at 10-2.
You think so?
Yes. Because
So
I think they're going to
then
lose.
win
They're going to
11-2 with
lose.
the-
And I think they'll probably lose the Oregon game. I mean, I don't think that
They're
should
gonna
do
lose the
much.
Oregon
And then probably just stub their toe with one other. I think it's hard to say they're going to go undefeated the rest of the way. I'll give them one more loss in some game at some point. But nice home schedule. Should have big crowds. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, the anticipation for this, whether it's Malachi, whether it's Ashton Genty, whether it's Spencer, I mean, the fact that there's actually a real chance you can make the playoff now just instantly makes it more exciting. And so I think that I think they have a chance. You know, everyone's talking about the offense and how it should be really, really good. But I think that, you know, I think the defense has a chance too to be pretty good too. So I'm pretty. There's not a lot of weak spots, you know. I try to find those, whatever. I think this has a chance to be a really fun, good season, and I would suspect they're, you know, again the other one loss, it got to be the right loss depending on tiebreakers and all that. But if they can win the Mountain West, I think they're going to make a late run. I think 10-2, 11-2 with the championship, and they'll be right there in the mix for the playoff.
Is it important to keep it respectable at Oregon? I don't think anyone thinks we're going to win that game. I mean, lose by less than 20. Is that important?
By the
depends
way,
on
I
who
heard,
else.
I don't know if this is true or not, but like Vivid Seats or one of those ticket sites actually has updated their thing to say that's a Friday night game. And I don't know if it is or not. And I don't think I asked Boise State, and they're like, no, they couldn't know that. So maybe it was just a glitch. But Oregon home games are, remember this year they're starting for the first time the new Friday night prime time on Fox. So
that'd be
Fox,
cool.
like National Fox is airing Friday night football games now for Mountain West Pac.
Oh, say it. There you go.
Big 10. Big 10. They have Big
Pac
10,
10.
Big
Big
10,
Pac 10.
Big 12, and Mountain West. So
Really?
yeah, I don't know if that's happening or not, but that would be kind of cool. But that'd be a tough turnaround if they played on the road at Georgia Southern and then had to come back and play Friday. But
It's unfortunate.
but no, yeah, and I think and that's you probably do want to try to keep it somewhat close just because later in the season. But I think they're gonna have a good year. Should be fun, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Well, BJ, thanks for joining us. Bronco Nation News, where can people check you out? What do they need to do?
BroncoNationNews.com. Our big one's the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Bronco Nation News. We're pushing towards 5,000 YouTube subscribers.
Wow.
And that's our big one. And we started that one from scratch. All the others I bought shit, but I started YouTube from zero, and we're almost to 5,000 on YouTube. So
That's awesome.
go to youtube.com/Bronco Nation News. Subscribe. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. But the website's BroncoNationNews.com.
Awesome. Thanks, BJ. Thanks for listening to the Shirts and Skins podcast. We will catch you next time.